Hello, my name is Dominique Bordeaux, and today I'll be discussing relationships in group meaning for my CMN 598 final project. It is currently Monday, May 18th at 3:25 p.m. I will begin by discussing what storytelling is and the components of it. So, stories are a massive transmission of cultural knowledge and value. An important part of storytelling is the sense making. So they are used to convey information or help others understand certain events, interactions, situations, prior events, or things of the like. They're also used for self-presentation, so displaying and controlling your self-identity, as well as construct and manage relationships, whether that's maintaining a personal, romantic, business relationship of any kind, maintaining, ending, or continuing. Stories are also used to solve a problem, show understanding, defend, entertain, amuse, and things like that. So an important part to getting a story started is initiating, which we learned through Kidwell. There are many different ways to initiate a story. That could be, I heard last week, or I remember, or something like that. So for the purpose of this analysis, we'll be looking at a reminiscent prototype. So this story is initiated with an unspecified date from a few years ago. So those three key terms are important in realizing this is a reminiscent and amusing type story, which you will see once we analyze the transcript. So the participants of the story are my younger brother, Jimmy, who will be defined as J in the transcript, and myself, Dominique, who will be defined as D. This interaction began after I came home from work and was having a conversation with my brother about his day. I was sitting on the edge of his bed, watching him play an MLB game on his PlayStation when we began discussing the game on said PlayStation. So, here's the transcript. I will leave this up while I do my analysis, as well as attach a copy to my final submission. The story is initiated at line 15 when Jimmy says, I remember. So to preface this story, what started this story was when I said that in his game, it really looked like Fenway Park. Jimmy confirmed that it was Fenway Park, and I responded with, I know that is Fenway Park. In line 12. In the video, you'll be able to see that my body language and physical cues that I understand, and that in turn alters how the conversation will go. This is an example of knowledge asymmetry as well as symmetry. So asymmetry in the fact that Jimmy was unaware that I did know that it was a game, and it was modeled after Fenway Park, but symmetry in the sense that we are both aware of what he is talking about, or what I'm talking about, the video game, and that we both know what Fenway Park is. This shift in conversation allows for Jay to change subjects now that he's established that D as a knowing participant and can move on to the next topic, thus initiating the story. So as the story continues, we see another example of recipient knowledge, so specifically shared knowledge and recipient design. As Jimmy uses formal names like Madden and Dad to describe specific people and objects that D has prior knowledge of. So the first example of Jimmy using Madden and Dad, that would be in line 15 when he says Madden, as well as when he says Dad further on in the sentence. Dominique has prior knowledge because she shows no physical signs or verbal cues, so described by Kidwell as embodied behavior. I acknowledge that I understand what he's talking about with a slight head nod and no verbal cue that I'm confused. If Jimmy had referred to Madden as anything other than Madden or Dad as anything different. It would most likely change the narrative of the story due to the assumption that Dominique is not familiar with what Madden is or who Dad is. Furthermore, as Jay moves forward with his story, Dominique slightly nods along to show her aligning of Jay's story so far, so agreeing with it and understanding. So this is an example of reception communicated through embodied behaviors due to the physical response, physical and slight verbal response the recipient, myself, uses. In Wortham's article of Interactional Positioning and Narrative Self-Construction, it deals with the themes of how we socially construct our self-identities for others. So, as we dive into membership categorization, we see my brother constructing a self-identity for himself as someone who knows about video games, someone who finds situations where my father does not make correct assumptions funny. And we also see him as someone who has the ability to take an otherwise unfunny situation and make it amusing and repeat this story for someone else's enjoyment. Continuing, Madden and Dad. Those references are an example of membership categorization, which we learned through Fitzgerald and Rintel, as well as Boge. As described by Sachs, Boge, and Fitzgerald, membership categorization is one of the many layers of storytelling which reveal certain membership attributes about the participants in said story, revealing to others which groups they belong in outside of the story in which they're telling. Connecting Jimmy's use of the terms Madden and Dad, we're able to see Jimmy placed into the membership category of video game players, specifically those who play virtual football games, and Dominique into the category of those who understand sports games as well as know the names of the games. Most who don't play these games would not know what Madden is or why, in lines 22 and 23, his guy is not obeying normal physics. These are details only those in membership categories I spoke of before would know. It would be confusing and slightly odd for someone who doesn't play these games to use the terms Madden and my guy in reference to a virtual player. Additionally, the name Dad is used to refer to our shared father. Since Dad is a term used to refer to someone's father in general, Jay does not use his, hers, or theirs before saying Dad, indicating that he was talking about someone Dominique and Jimmy both know and view as a father. This places both participants of the conversation into the membership category of children with a father figure as well as into the category of siblings, since in further into the interaction in line 17, Dominique refers to this man as Dad as well, solidifying the relationship between the two participants of the story and the recipient, Dominique. As we look into the family dynamic, we see an example of joint familial storytelling. So referring to the trees and Kellis, telling tales, enacting family relationships and joint storytelling about difficult family experiences. They say on page 91 that interactional sense-making behaviors, in particular coherence and perspective taking, predict important family relational qualities. So in line 31, when Dominique says, Dad's blind, she says it with a smile on her face. This interaction displays that she is not only fond of her father, but that the relationship is comfortable enough for her to make an observation like that in a positive manner. This is also an example of knowledge symmetry, where she makes it known that she's aware of Dad's visual capabilities, thus showing she agrees with and understands why Jimmy is laughing in line 30 about the father's comment about game quality, as well as understands his confusion between a real and fake game. Another example of group membership is where Jimmy explains in line 43 the difference between the games Pong and Pac-Man. Here, Jimmy places himself in the membership category of classic game players, as well as someone who has past knowledge of video game history. To conclude, there are multiple themes we've seen throughout this analysis, such as turn-taking as each individual speaks, as well as stance taking, so our thoughts towards certain things like Dad's funny or Dad's blind, and the relationship that my brother and I have built. That is a clear example of relationships in storytelling and how we've strengthened our bond through this small moment of reminiscing and amusement.